The morning was bitter cold, and Chicago's O'Hare International Airport groaned under the weight of a brutal snowstorm. The fluorescent lights overhead seemed to flicker faintly, as if even they couldn't handle the chaos below. Travelers hustled through the terminals, their faces etched with anxiety as flight delays mounted and tempers flared. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing, battering the glass windows with icy fury. Amidst this maelstrom stood Officer Michael Reeves, his breath visible in the freezing air, his gloved hand resting on the leash of Titan, his German Shepherd partner. Together, they were an unlikely duo. Reeves, a man who once feared dogs after being bitten by a Rottweiler as a child, and Titan, a canine prodigy nicknamed the Professor for his uncanny ability to analyze situations. For 3 years, they had patrolled these halls, protecting thousands of lives without ever asking for recognition. But today felt different. Today, something sinister lurked beneath the surface, hidden among the harried travelers and overstressed airline staff. Reeves could feel it in his gut, a gnawing unease that made his fingers tighten around Titan's leash. And then there was Titan himself, his dark eyes sharper than usual. His movements deliberate, almost electric with anticipation. It was as though the dog knew something no one else did. As Reeves scanned the crowded terminal, he couldn't shake the feeling that disaster wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. Little did he know, Titan was about to prove him right in ways neither of them could have imagined. The tension in Terminal 3 reached a breaking point as Titan, usually the epitome of disciplined focus, suddenly erupted into a frenzy. His deep bark reverberated through the crowded terminal, silencing the hum of anxious travelers and drawing every eye toward Captain James Harrington, who stood frozen in the crew security lane. Reeves tightened his grip on Titan's leash, his mind racing to piece together what had triggered this unprecedented reaction. "Titan, heel," Reeves commanded sharply, his voice cutting through the chaos. But for the first time in their partnership, the shepherd ignored him. Instead, Titan lunged forward with startling intensity, positioning himself squarely between Harrington and the boarding gate. The dog's barking grew louder, more insistent, as if he were trying to communicate something urgent that no one else could grasp. Harrington, visibly irritated, attempted to sidestep the dog, only for Titan to mirror his movements with precision, blocking him at every turn. "Control your dog, officer," Harrington snapped, his face flushing red with anger. Passengers nearby began to murmur, their frustration bubbling over into audible complaints. "This is ridiculous. We're already delayed because of the storm now this?" One man shouted, gesturing wildly at the scene unfolding before them. The pressure mounted on Reeves, who now found himself caught between an irate pilot, a growing mob of disgruntled travelers, and the uncheckable instincts of his canine partner. Reeves' heart pounded as he scanned the crowd, searching for any sign of support or understanding. But all he saw were accusatory glares and shaking heads. Titan's behavior was unprecedented even for him. The dog wasn't just alerting, he was insisting, his body rigid with determination. Reeves knew he had to make a decision, and fast. Yet, the weight of the moment pressed down on him like a vice. If he trusted Titan's instincts and detained Harrington, he risked causing further delays and inciting outrage among passengers. But if he let the pilot go and Titan was right, the consequences could be unimaginable. The pressure in the terminal was suffocating, and it wasn't just coming from the passengers. Diane Coleman, the ever-pragmatic security supervisor, leaned closer to Reeves, her voice low but firm. "Officer, you realize the implications of this delay, don't you?" she whispered, glancing nervously at Harrington. "American Airlines is already hemorrhaging money because of the snowstorm. If we hold up this flight any longer, it could cost the airline and this airport millions in damages and lost credibility." Her words hit Reeves like a freight train, each syllable driving home the weight of his decision. Behind them, the departure board flickered ominously, counting down the minutes until Flight 862's scheduled takeoff. Reeves' mind raced as he wrestled with the impossible choice before him. On one side was Titan, his unwavering partner whose instincts had never failed them. On the other was the crushing reality of what might happen if he made the wrong call. The passengers were growing restless, their murmurs turning into outright complaints. "This is absurd," shouted a man in a business suit nearby. "We're paying thousands for these tickets, and now we're stuck because of some dog's temper tantrum." His words stung, not because they were untrue, but because they echoed the doubts creeping into Reeves' own mind. Then, in that moment of chaos, Reeves noticed something, a subtle twitch in Harrington's hand as he reached for his phone to call operations. It was slight, almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down Reeves' spine. The pilot's knuckles were white, his fingers trembling as though fighting to maintain control. Was it fear? Anger? Or something darker? Reeves couldn't be sure, but it was enough to reinforce his faith in Titan's instincts. This isn't just about procedure, Reeves thought grimly. This is about trust, the kind of trust that saved lives before. He tightened his grip on Titan's leash, his resolve hardening despite the storm brewing around him. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for certain. Ignoring Titan's warning wasn't an option. The tension in the screening room was palpable, a heavy silence broken only by the faint hum of fluorescent lights above. Titan's behavior had shifted from persistent barking to something far more urgent, a deep, guttural growl that seemed to reverberate through the small space. Reeves watched as his partner fixated on Harrington's uniform jacket, still lying on the metal table. The initial inspection had revealed nothing unusual. No hidden compartments. No suspicious bulges, just standard airline-issued fabric. Yet Titan's focus was unrelenting, his dark eyes locked onto the collar area with an intensity that made Reeves' pulse quicken. "Officer, your dog is overreacting," Harrington snapped, his voice laced with frustration. "This is harassment. I have a flight to command." Around them, the room seemed to shrink as Coleman and Wong exchanged uneasy glances. Even the air felt heavier, charged with doubt and mounting pressure. Reeves could feel the weight of their stares, Coleman's skepticism, Wong's hesitation, and Harrington's barely contained fury, all pressing down on him like a physical force. For the first time in years, he questioned whether he was making the right call. What if Titan was wrong? What if this was all a colossal mistake? But then Titan did something that sent a chill racing down Reeves' spine. The shepherd stood rigid, his body trembling with urgency, and let out a sharp bark that echoed like a gunshot in the confined space. He pawed insistently at the left lapel of the jacket, his movements deliberate and precise. Reeves remembered a case 6 months earlier when Titan had detected contraband sewn into clothing seams, something no human or machine had spotted. His instincts screamed at him to trust his partner. "We need the portable X-ray scanner," Reeves said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension. When the technician arrived and scanned the jacket, the discovery was chilling. Embedded within the fabric of the collar was a paper-thin device, nearly invisible to the naked eye. It was a custom-made trigger mechanism, designed to interface with something far more deadly. As the realization dawned on everyone in the room, Reeves felt a cold sweat break out across his forehead. If Titan hadn't alerted them, this device would have been aboard Flight 862 in mere minutes, ready to unleash a catastrophe midair. The room erupted into chaos as Harrington, now revealed to be James Harrington Kaiser, lunged violently toward the door, his handcuffed hands jerking the chair he was tethered to across the floor. "He's trying to kill himself?" Reeves shouted, recognizing the desperation in Kaiser's eyes. Before anyone could react, Kaiser clamped down on something hidden inside his mouth, his jaw muscles straining with brutal force. The metallic tang of blood filled the air as Ramirez barked orders, his voice cutting through the commotion like a blade. "Get medical in here now." The next moments were a blur of frantic activity. Two officers wrestled Kaiser to the ground, while a third pried open his clenched teeth, revealing a partially dissolved capsule lodged between his molars. Medical personnel rushed in, their movements swift but precise, forcing a tube down his throat to prevent further absorption of the lethal compound. Kaiser thrashed wildly, his strength fueled by sheer panic, but the team held firm, pinning him down as they worked. Reeves watched, his heart pounding, as the man who had seemed so composed just moments ago fought like a cornered animal. Titan, still stationed outside with another handler, let out a low growl that seemed to echo the tension inside. When the paramedics finally stabilized Kaiser and wheeled him away, silence fell over the room, broken only by the faint hum of the evidence container holding the deadly device from his uniform. FBI agent Victor Ramirez turned to Reeves, his expression grim. "Interpol confirms it. He's a wanted terrorist." This flight was supposed to be the first strike in a three-phase operation targeting transatlantic flights. Reeves felt a chill run down his spine. Titan hadn't just stopped one man. He'd uncovered the tip of a global conspiracy. And as Ramirez's phone buzzed with urgent updates, it became clear that this was far from over. The Boeing 777 loomed large in the hangar, its sleek body glistening under the harsh floodlights as the specialized explosive detection team prepared to sweep every inch of the aircraft. Titan, now visibly agitated, led the way with a precision that sent chills down Reeves' spine. The shepherd moved methodically, his nose twitching as he sniffed each section of the plane with almost surgical focus. "He's never been this deliberate," Reeves muttered to Ramirez, who nodded grimly. "Let's hope it's just thoroughness, and not what I think it is." The tension mounted as Titan approached the flight deck, his movements slowing even further. When he reached the co-pilot's seat, he froze, his body rigid and his tail stiff. Reeves felt his stomach drop. "Here," he called out, his voice tight with urgency. The technicians carefully removed the cushion of the co-pilot's seat, revealing what appeared to be part of the chair's mechanical adjustment system. But something was off. Beneath the innocuous-looking mechanism lay a sophisticated device, its intricate wiring barely visible to the naked eye. "Remote-triggered explosive," one technician confirmed after scanning it. Low metal content would have slipped past every pre-flight check. Reeves' mind raced as the gravity of the situation hit him like a freight train. If Harrington had made it onto the plane, if Titan hadn't alerted them earlier, this device would have been activated at cruising altitude over the Atlantic. The explosion would have torn through the cockpit floor, crippling the aircraft's critical systems mid-flight. At 35,000 feet, there would have been no survivors among the 243 passengers and crew aboard. His hands trembled as he thought about how close they'd come to disaster. Titan sat beside him, his dark eyes fixed on the bomb as if to say, "This is why I stopped him." Reeves knelt beside his partner, his voice barely above a whisper. "You saved them all, boy." In the sterile hospital room, the air was thick with tension as Kaiser finally broke his silence. His voice was hoarse but chillingly calm, each word dripping with calculated menace. "This was just phase one," he admitted, his eyes darting between Ramirez, Coleman, and Reeves. 3 simultaneous attacks, transatlantic flights, all within 48 hours. Frankfurt to New York, Paris to Chicago, and my flight from O'Hare to Heathrow. His confession sent a jolt through the room, like a spark igniting dry tinder. Ramirez's expression hardened as he leaned closer, his voice cutting through the stillness. "Who else is involved?" "Names, locations now." Kaiser hesitated, then let out a bitter laugh. "You think I know everything? Ascension operates in cells. My handler, the coordinator, is someone I've met twice, always in crowded terminals where no one could track her. But she'll know something went wrong when my flight doesn't go down. Reeves felt a cold knot form in his stomach. If Kaiser was telling the truth, they were already running out of time. Coleman stepped forward, her phone pressed to her ear as agents scrambled to coordinate with international authorities. The Frankfurt flight departs in 6 hours, Paris in 8, she said, her voice tight with urgency. We need to ground those planes now. Outside the hospital, snow continued to fall heavily, blanketing the city in quite a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside their minds. Reeves glanced at Titan, who sat patiently in the hallway with another handler. The dog's unwavering instincts had uncovered this nightmare, but now the clock was ticking louder than ever. As Kaiser revealed more details about the explosives hidden during routine maintenance checks, Reeves couldn't shake the image of hundreds of passengers unknowingly boarding death traps. Ascension's goal isn't just destruction, Kaiser added bitterly. It's to shatter public trust in aviation security worldwide. Imagine the chaos: 3 planes, 3 disasters, all pointing to failures in the system. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of what they had narrowly avoided and what still lay ahead. The tactical team moved swiftly through the snow-covered streets, their vehicles' headlights cutting through the swirling flakes as they approached Lakeside Towers. Titan sat alert in the back seat beside Reeves, his dark eyes reflecting the flashing red and blue lights of the convoy. Based on Kaiser's fragmented intel, this nondescript apartment complex housed one of Ascension's operational hubs, a ticking time bomb waiting to detonate. We're walking into the unknown, Ramirez muttered, gripping the steering wheel tighter. If she knows we're coming... He didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications hung heavy in the air. When they reached Unit 512, the tension was palpable. Titan led the way, his movements deliberate as he sniffed at the doorframe. Reeves watched his partner closely, noting the subtle shift in his posture, a clear signal that something inside demanded immediate attention. "This is it," Reeves whispered, signaling the breach team. With a swift motion, the door was forced open and chaos erupted. Elena Vav, a striking woman with sharp features, stood near a cluttered desk, her hands flying across a laptop keyboard. "Don't move," Ramirez shouted, but Vav ignored the command, her fingers moving faster. Titan barked sharply, drawing everyone's focus to a storage cabinet against the far wall. Reeves followed his lead, yanking it open to reveal rows of unassembled explosive devices, each one capable of bringing down another plane. But Vav wasn't done fighting. As 2 officers tackled her to the ground, she pulled a concealed sidearm, firing wildly. The room exploded into action, bullets ricocheting off metal shelves as the team scrambled for cover. Amidst the chaos, Titan remained steadfast, his instincts guiding them to every critical discovery. By the time Vav was subdued, handcuffed, and dragged away, the laptop screen had gone black. She triggered a data wipe, the tech specialist yelled, frantically working to recover the files. Minutes later, fragments of documents began reappearing: blueprints, flight schedules, and personnel dossiers detailing future attacks. "This isn't just about today," Ramirez said grimly. "It's about tomorrow and the day after that." The magnitude of what they had prevented began to sink in as the sun rose over a snow-covered Chicago, casting an eerie glow across O'Hare's terminals. Thanks to Titan's unrelenting instincts and Reeves' unwavering trust in his partner, a catastrophic terrorist plot had been dismantled just moments before it could unfold. Over 240 lives, mothers, fathers, children, were spared from a fate that would have unfolded miles above the Atlantic Ocean. Across the globe, international authorities moved swiftly, arresting key members of Ascension in 8 countries. The operation was hailed as one of the most significant counterterrorism successes in recent history. Yet, despite the victory, Reeves couldn't shake the haunting what-if scenarios that replayed in his mind like a broken record. What if Titan hadn't alerted so strongly? What if he'd succumbed to the pressure from passengers, airline staff, or even his own supervisors? He glanced at the departure board, now flickering with updated flight statuses, and imagined Flight 862 soaring through the sky, its cockpit suddenly erupting into chaos. The thought made his stomach churn. Just 1 minute. That's all it would have taken for Harrington's device to activate at cruising altitude, turning the Boeing 777 into a plummeting fireball. 1 minute was all that separated safety from unimaginable tragedy. As Reeves stood by the terminal window, watching planes taxi along the icy runway, he felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Titan sat quietly beside him, his dark eyes reflecting the faint glow of the emergency vehicles still stationed near Building C. Reeves knelt down, scratching behind the shepherd's ears. "You saved them all," he whispered hoarsely, though the weight of responsibility still pressed heavily on his shoulders. The world would never know how close it had come to disaster or how a single dog's instincts had rewritten history. 2 days after the chaos at O'Hare, Reeves stood in the airport's administrative conference room, his hand resting lightly on Titan's head as applause erupted around them. The sleek German shepherd sat perfectly still, his freshly groomed coat gleaming under the fluorescent lights, oblivious to the weight of what he had accomplished. Airport Director Margaret Chun addressed the assembled team, her voice steady but tinged with awe. Thanks to Officer Reeves and his canine partner, Titan, a catastrophic terrorist plot was thwarted. Their actions saved 243 lives aboard Flight 862 and potentially thousands more across 3 simultaneous attacks. Reeves shifted uncomfortably as cameras flashed and reporters jotted down notes. Fame wasn't something he'd ever sought. For him, this was just another day on the job. Titan, too, seemed unfazed by the attention, his dark eyes already scanning the room as if anticipating the next threat. When FBI agent Ramirez stepped forward to announce that their work had led to the identification of 17 Ascension operatives worldwide, Reeves felt a surge of pride but also humility. They hadn't done it alone. It was Titan's instincts, honed over years of partnership, that had unraveled the conspiracy before it could unfold. Later, during a private debriefing, Department of Homeland Security officials extended an invitation for Reeves and Titan to lead training sessions for aviation security units nationwide. Your trust in your partner's instincts, even when protocol suggested otherwise, represents exactly the kind of adaptive thinking we need, one official stated. Reeves nodded, though he couldn't help but think about how close they'd come to disaster. As he knelt beside Titan afterward, scratching behind his ears, he whispered, "We got lucky this time, boy. But there will always be another threat." Titan wagged his tail once, his gaze already fixed on the terminal doors. For him, the mission never truly ended. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across O'Hare's Terminal 3, Reeves stood beside Titan, watching the steady flow of travelers streaming through security checkpoints. To the untrained eye, it was just another day at the airport, families rushing to catch flights, business people glued to their phones, and children tugging at suitcases twice their size. But beneath the surface normalcy lay a truth that only Reeves and his four-legged partner truly understood. Danger could be hiding anywhere, invisible to most but glaringly obvious to Titan's extraordinary senses. Titan wasn't just a dog. He was a silent guardian, a protector whose instincts had saved hundreds of lives that day and countless others over his years of service. Reeves thought back to the sheer determination in Titan's eyes as he blocked Captain Harrington, refusing to yield despite the chaos swirling around them. "You didn't just stop a pilot," Reeves murmured, scratching behind the shepherd's ears. You stopped a nightmare before it even began. It struck him then how often society overlooked these unsung heroes. While headlines celebrated human achievements, it was creatures like Titan who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, their loyalty unwavering, their courage unmatched. The explosives hidden on Flight 862, the network of terror cells plotting worldwide. Attacks, all of it would have gone unnoticed without Titan's razor-sharp focus. Reeves glanced down at the shepherd, his heart swelling with gratitude. These dogs weren't just tools or assets. They were partners, friends, and above all, saviors. In that moment, Reeves realized something profound. The world owed its safety, not only to those who wore badges, but also to those who walked on four legs. And as Titan tilted his head up, meeting Reeves' gaze with an almost human understanding, Reeves knew one thing for certain: their bond was unbreakable, and together, they would continue to stand between chaos and the innocent lives counting on them.